a loss of a sense of duty. If you look into some of the people that served in World War II, that served in the War of 1812, on both sides, they will say things like, I didn't know the geopolitical complications, the stratagems, but I just served for my country, a sense of duty to the country. I'm reading a book about the rise and fall of the British Empire, and in the book, the author stated that a lot of the soldiers who fought in the War of Independence on the side of the British did not really care about the colonies. They weren't very economical. Jamaica would give them 5 times as much in income, but they fought for the sense of duty. They weren't very passionate, but they fought for the sense of duty and loyalty to their country. I think the reason that Glubb decided to get into the Arabic decline in more detail is because of the similarities, the parallels between the West and the United States. Now keep in mind this was written in 1976. It was very prophetic. Of course, you had indifference to religion, increasing materialism, and the laxity of sexual morals. But one of the reasons is because they would play erotic songs on the lut, which is an instrument resembling the modern guitar. In the second half of the 10th century, you had people talking about sex, people talking about being promiscuous. And several of the caliphs issued orders banning the pop singers. But they would always come back. I personally have no issue with drug references, violence, sexual references, and cursing. But on the same token, I don't think children who are very young should be exposed to that. I don't think a 15-year-old or a 10-year-old should be watching Jennifer Lopez shaking her ass on camera. Now, that's her personal right, freedom of speech, but I don't think kids should be exposed to it. And that's just my personal opinion, because you see younger kids talking about sex, and it declines the morality of the population. Now, in the 10th century, you had posts which were usually dominated by men taken over by women. The same thing happened in Rome. The saying went, Rome might control the world, but women control Rome. That was the running joke at the time. Or by historians, I don't know where that joke originated. But feminism, women taking over leadership roles, leads to dysfunction, historically. If you don't like that, start paying my bills and then I'll care what you think. But until you pay my bills, I'm not going to care what you think. And then you had invaders who overran the country, illegal immigration. This resulted in confusion, violence, and made it unsafe for women. Something I'm very curious about is the two incompatible wings that have a short alliance. The feminist and radical Islam. It's crazy. In Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in Qatar, whatever the hell you call it, women are treated like second-class citizens. They can't drive, they can't vote, they have to wear hijabs over their head. And feminists believe in empowering women. Well, it's going to be comical when you have this mass influx of people from other countries. If these women believe in the Second Amendment, they'll be okay. If they believe in having a strong man in the house, they'll be okay. But if they have a pussy husband, or the state's their husband, because I don't need no man, all you have at the end of the day is a dildo and wine to stimulate yourself when you're 30 and no man wants your ass when you start losing looks, then that's what happens. It is what it is. And they're going to be fucked, and that's their own problem. If a woman has a strong husband, she'll be okay. You had a massive welfare state that was first introduced in Britain. But in the Arabic Empire, they would give people free college. And the first free public hospital was in Baghdad. And you had multiple free hospitals that were in Spain, which was controlled by the Arab world in this time, and Pakistan. So if we go over these things, you have people who are not as religious. You have pop stars singing songs about sex. You have massive immigration. Women taking over roles that used to be permanently done by men. And there's a few other things which weren't touched in this that I've noticed when I've studied these empires. One of the things is they don't produce things anymore. The Ottomans, and I made a video about that if you're interested, stopped producing things, stopped producing precious metals. The Spanish Empire, instead of producing things, would just plunder for gold. The British Empire started losing out money to the United States. When you don't produce your own stuff, as the United States doesn't anymore, everything's made in China, your country loses wealth. That's one of the end pointless wars. The Roman Empire stretched so far that they had to focus on being in other areas while ignoring what they were doing at home. Same thing with the British Empire. It was so large, it was half the damn globe, that they were in these other areas and they stretched so far while they were losing money. So that's a couple of things. I think he did a great job overall, and I agree with a lot of his hypothesis, but he forgot a couple things. But I understand. Now let's get into a couple questions. This will be my, I guess you could say, question. The question is, what will replace the power vacuum left by the empire's destruction, and what will remain of the former empire itself? Now, Great Britain was once a superpower and ruler of half the world, but their current position is an isolated, economically fragile island. Now, Rome, while Western Rome crumbled and fell, the Byzantine, which was Eastern Rome, lasted 1,100 years until 1453, when Constantinople was taken by the Ottoman Empire. The former colonies of Rome fell into the Dark Ages, and that's because I made a video about this, about the trade in Rome. You had raw materials in these areas. Geographically, they spoke the same language, they used the same currency, they had the same laws. It was very easy and efficient for commerce. When this fell, it took Europe 1,000 years to regain the standard of living it had under Rome. So not Rome, yeah, it fell, but it really destroyed Europe for a long period of time. The Mongolian Empire, you had China take over the Mongolian Empire. They had the power vacuum for a while. In Spain, in the 17th century, it lost its colonies and right to be called a world power. All their territories in South and Central America became independent about 200 years ago. And in 1898, they gave Cuba and Puerto Rico to the U.S., and that was in the Spanish-American War. The Arabic Empire had the Christians regain the Holy Land, and the Mongols got other areas, so they completely lost all their lands. Baghdad, all those, Syria, all those became independent. Completely gone. Now, the question is, when America falls, will the territories and states still exist, but retain a different form of government? People, culture, and traditions. Will the mass immigration, welfare state, etc. lead to the end, or will it still exist nominally in name only? So we still, kind of like the Byzantine Empire, where you have different people who have a different set of government, different laws, different morals, but you still call it the United States. But it's totally different because it's not dominated by Europeans. Well, China and Russia fill the power vacuum. Now, historically speaking, Spain was ruled by the Arabic Empire for 700 years. In 1492, the year they received their independence, Columbus discovered America. In the 17th century, Spain lost America. Then you had Britain, France, and Spain, who owned different parts of it. Britain, in the 7 Years' War, gained control over the colonies, and after, America became independent, and America became the superpower. So you have Arabic Empire, you have Spain, you then have Britain, France, then the United States. And that's the way power vacuums work. The question is, who's going to fill that power vacuum? Is it going to be Russia? Is it going to be China? So just because an empire collapsed doesn't mean it won't exist. Spain still exists, but it's weak. So does Britain. But they're just one little island instead of a consolidation of territories. We'll end up like the Byzantine Empire. It's questions to ask. But a massive welfare state, a mass influx of illegal immigration, all these things culminate over time and lead to a collapse. If Bernie Sanders gets in, you can bet your bottom ass it will speed up the process. You don't like what I have to say? Don't watch my videos. If you want to watch my videos, pay my bills, and then I'll listen to what you have to say.